Hello, World Civilization 107 class. This is week 5 that we are in the middle of right now. And so I just want to commend all of you for hanging in there and, for those of you communicating with me. If you have any zeros or problems with your grades and you're frustrated about it and you don't understand why yet or anything, please, the time to address any issues with your grades is now, because we're literally going to have one more week coming up of regular assignments and videos, and then we have the final, and then you're done. So we're talking about 2 more weeks. And so I'll be posting also a little bit later in the week that if you are getting late work that was approved already to be turned in, there's going to be a deadline for that as well. We're just coming to the end of the semester. So keep up doing what you're doing. I want to remind some of you, there's a few that turned in some late works without permission. I decided to go ahead and let you do it, but I'm very serious about this. I have mentioned in many announcements that if you turn in late work without asking for prior consent, it gets an automatic 0 and I don't look at it, okay? So I don't care. You might have just had an accident or so. You have to communicate with me and you have to get that green light from me for late work. I'm very generous to those of you, and many of you who have had a hard time know this, but I just need everybody to be on board right now, and it's documented that I'm saying that late work has to have consent on my end to be accepted. And if you turn it in without doing that, it's a 0. Like I said, I let some of you slide on that, okay? But please pay attention to that part. It's very important. Having said that now, okay, just a few things. In this 107 class, I really wanted to change some things to get us to cover what's going on currently with the tragic events involving Russia in the Ukraine, NATO in the United States, and what this all means. I do cover that a little bit more in my Western Civ 105 class. And some of the videos that I have here are already a little bit outdated in the sense of so many other things that have been happening. The reason why I'm kind of keeping things the way that they are, like for instance, I'm going to have videos later on covering Syria in more detail and some Middle East historic events, is that I feel like what I'm covering gives you the groundwork to better understand what is going on now. So currently, there is some drama going on in Israeli politics. We're going to cover the Israel-Palestine conflict from a wide range of ways of looking at it next week. So, for example, Soviet history and the Russian Revolution have a lot to do, and the NATO alliances. You are already getting some sort of background on all of this. Today is going over the armistice of what's happened in Korea and the unfinished war between the South and the North, or where did that come from? What's the context of the Korean War? So a lot has developed in this history since I made these videos, but this base knowledge is the most important, and what I really find to be lacking in a lot of current political analysis views that are given on various sources, online sources, media sources, is the historic backdrop, the context to what builds up to these big issues that have happened. And to look at the Korean Civil War and not look at the Japanese occupation, to not understand that we've also propped up dictators in South Korea, is to miss a point about a lot of things that's been taking place within that peninsula up until now. And so, just for example, to understand the rise of the power of China, the context in which the Communist Party of China came into being, and where it's at now. Southeast Asia, Vietnam. You know, we learn a lot about Vietnam War lens, mainly through the way that it has affected us or our soldiers. Sometimes in the past, we've talked about Vietnam War vets who've been disrespected when they came back and spit on, and there was those kind of stories. Or then there's the stories that we regret doing that and we want to give them their due honor. But again, what's missing is the fact that Vietnamese people, a small country compared to the United States, had the audacity to have a leader that wanted to get national independence like we did for 4th of July, based on an ideology that our government said was not acceptable to the Vietnamese people. I mean, in other words, that the U.S. government would not allow them to be independent if we didn't approve of the ideology in which they were gaining their independence from. I want you to think about it that way, okay? That's what happened. And then, of course, there was a domino theory strategy of the whole Cold War. So there's just so much to unpack. And we've covered a tremendous amount of information, talking about Latin America, talking about U.S. involvement there. Why is there even this issue about immigration in the first place? I am hoping that what you're seeing in all of this, these videos, even though you're not going to be able to retain all this information, is really that when you see the world the way it is, you will see how much the U.S. government's involved in so many of these things. You will see that it's not a clear-cut case of good versus bad and the way that you were raised to think about good and bad. And it can cause a sort of complex, almost an existential crisis for us to say, well, what are we on that from this moral standpoint when we look at these strategic ways in which policies are enacted, and the people that are affected are just simply considered pawns in a game of chess between all these great superpowers, huh? You know? So anyhow, enough of that. I think you have the idea. Please contact me if you have any questions, and keep cool out there. I've recovered pretty well from my heat exhaustion. But Modesto definitely has been intense. I'm in Santa Cruz for now, and I'll be back in Modesto again a little bit more later in the week. But you all take care of yourselves, and we'll be in touch.